Welcome back guys to another Zero DTE video, and today Ernie's going to talk about the Iron Condor, so make sure you stay tuned. If you're interested in becoming a pro trader, check out the link in the description for Ernie's course. And as always, I hope you enjoy guys.
Today, we will look at the Iron Condor. We'll use it as a kind of a control group because that is probably the most popular strategy that's being used with zero DTE and the way it's used, and we'll also look at alternate uses of it. Some of the alternate uses go way beyond what most people are doing, and that includes something that many people have pounded me about, wanted me to do more about it, and that's something called the dynamic squeeze, which is really a strategy that's built around something called delta neutrality, and that is trying to keep price right in the center of your strategy for the purpose of collecting premium on zero DTE. And you can do that with the Iron Condor. Now, everything that I do when I'm talking about strategies is in terms of looking at the risk graph. And when we start getting into the weeds of them, then we'll start looking at options chains and stuff like that. But we don't have to do that right now. We will hardly ever, if we can avoid it, be looking at the Greeks. There may be some usefulness in doing these delta neutral strategies and looking at the Greeks as a dashboard measure to figure how much further that we have to go and figure out what the potential is for the remainder of the day and then calculate out what will be an optimal time to take profit, that sort of thing. But we won't look at the stuff except from a conceptual point of view. For instance, I won't be examining gamma risk too closely other than to recognize that, oh, there's high gamma or there's low gamma risk. Because as a discretionary trader, you're not going to sit there and do all these calculations in your head as if they're going to make a material difference while the market's moving all over the place. You want to know basically what you want to do if this happens or that happens. So anyways, an Iron Condor is made up of two short verticals. A short call vertical that is placed above the market like this, and a short put vertical, right? Now, each one of these verticals will have a width to them. It's going to be a spread. It'll be, I don't know, between 5 and 30 wide here. Same thing over here. And then you'll place them apart from one another, some distance. And typically, the way people do it is they choose a delta, and so they'll place the spread based on the delta of the spread. And so they'll choose like usually between a 5 and a 15 delta. Now basically that means that that's anywhere from a 95% to an 85% probability of profiting. And they'll do the same thing over here. And so when they put on a trade like that, let's say a 5 delta, you'll result in a zero line. The profit line will be somewhere up here. That's the zero line. Everything below it is in the red, everything above it is in the green. So everything above it will be profit. This is where if you land in here, this will be profit. If you land below, you won't be in profit. So the other thing that we need to keep track of is the real-time profit. So presumably when you get into this trade, you're going to put it on at the money. And this is called a market neutral trade. You put it on both sides, and what you're banking on is that price will stay inside of these wings. And the profit curve, the real-time profit curve, when you first get in will look like this. And then slowly it will grow in this direction. You can see it doesn't have very far to go to fill up. Once it gets to the top of this fly, there's no more growth for it to go. But eventually it will take on the shape of this whole structure eventually. But that'll take all day, right? And so here's the other problem here. Let's give this a value of 1. If I gave that a value of 1, that's the potential profit or premium that you're going to collect. And then down here, this will be a 10 or more, right? That's all risk. So you're putting up $1,000 to make $100. Now, the way this strategy works, and because of the peculiar nature of it, you'll notice that if price goes this way, you start riding down this profit curve. So if price ends up right here, now you're sitting right here, and look over here, you're in negative territory, maybe minus $300 or something like that. If you go too far and go outside of the wings, you could potentially lose $1,000. So that's a problem, first of all. The slope of this curve here is called your gamma risk. Of course, when you're sitting right at the top, there's no gamma risk because price isn't moving. Your value is only going up as it decays. But it takes all day for that to decay. That's for 6.5 hours it takes to go from here to make that $100. Well, the chances of you just staying right there are extremely small. Much greater chance that you're going to move to the left or to the right and go into an immediate negative or an unrealized loss. Now, one might say, well, if I go down this, I could hang on and it could just stay there and then come up and make me money. As a matter of fact, at the beginning, I had a 95% probability or an 85% probability that would happen. But as soon as it starts moving this way, and in the markets that there's usually a big move like that, when it moves that way, you no longer have a 95% probability of winning. In fact, your probability of winning has just dropped dramatically. On top of that, you're underwater, right? That's the reality of this thing. And for that reason, people who trade this strategy put a whole bunch of constraints on it that kind of dummy it up. One of the constraints that they'll do is they'll say, okay, I'm going to put stops so that if it goes too far this way, my stop is going to be right there. Or if it goes too far this way, my stop is going to be right there. And so typically they'll make that stop 3 times the max potential profit, which essentially is like cutting this off right there, right there. So now you can only go from here to here. You have to stay between there and there. What is that doing? Well, effectively, that's taking it from being a 95% probability trade to one that is lower, maybe 70% probability trade with stops, meaning that if you hit the stop, you're out of the trade. You automatically lose. Unlike if you didn't have stops, there's no getting out of the trade until you get to expiration. There's no coming back. Once you're out, you're out. So if you had like a defined risk on some other trade in an options play that doesn't have stops, you could hit the max loss, but then it could come back. You don't get out of the trade. You still have a chance. Here you have no chance. You hit that stop, you are done, finito, gone. That's it. That's one constraint they put on it. The other constraint they put on it is that once this profit curve grows enough so it gets 50%, they consider that a win, and then they get out immediately. They take it at a 50%. Now, if you think about that, what you've really done, if you turned a 95% probability trade and a risk reward of 10 to 1 and turned it into a 20 to 1 probability trade, from 10 to 1 to 20 to 1. Then on top of that, you've reduced the chances of you getting that 50% by putting on the stops. You've changed the whole thing. The initial appeal of this is that, oh, I've got a 95% probability trade, but I'm going to take half of the potential profit and I'm going to take way more risk that I'm going to get stopped out. That's what you're doing. It is a total Frankenstein of a strategy. People will tell you, all you have to do is just manage it. Manage your risk. Put stops on an options trade, which is sacrosanct. That is just unbelievable that anybody would ever imagine to put stops on an options trade. Why have options in the first place? They are designed to have managed and defined risk.
Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the like button below. If there's any questions that you might have for Coach Ernie, make sure you leave them in the comment section. Thanks, guys.